I just got a package from my grandma in Belgium. She sent me one at the beginning of December for as long as I can remember to celebrate St. Nicholas Day. That's when their traditional version of Santa Claus, Sinterklaas, comes to visit kids and reward the good ones and punish the bad ones. And there's always lots of good stuff in here. There are Belgian waffles, there are speculoos cookies, chocolate, there's lots of chocolate. And then sometimes there's this. This is Zwarte Piet, and that's Dutch for Black Pete, and he's St. Nicholas's traditional assistant. He's the guy who carries all the presents around and punishes all the bad kids. You can kind of think of him like one of Santa's elves, except he is a blackface caricature. Black Pete has painted black skin and big gold hoop earrings and oversized red lips, and he wears colorful Renaissance-era clothing. Throughout Belgium and the Netherlands, people dress up as Black Pete around St. Nicholas Day. This is what that looked like in 1930 in a small town north of Amsterdam, and in 1970 at a local gym, and in 2006 at an elementary school, and in 2014 at a parade. I grew up with this tradition in Belgium. People dressed up as Black Pete and St. Nicholas would come visit my school and take pictures and pass out candy. But Black Pete is a racist caricature. It's a remnant of the Netherlands' colonial past, and this tradition is now at the center of a heated political debate.
It's a bit disturbing to realize that you have enjoyed as a child something that now turns out to be problematic. That's disturbing. And so they said, don't mess with my memories.
Those in the Netherlands who defend Black Pete argue that it can't be changed because it's a tradition that's been around forever. The Prime Minister even made this argument when he was asked about it at a nuclear security summit in 2014.
Because what I said is that Black Pete is black, and I cannot change that, because the name is Black Pete. This is a old children's tradition, Sinterklaas and Zwarte Piet, Black Pete. And it is not green Pete or brown Pete, it is Black Pete, so I cannot change that.
On top of that, you'll hear a lot of people say that the black face paint is okay because it doesn't represent skin color. Instead, it's just soot from the chimney. But historically, neither of those defenses is actually true. Zwarte Piet was originally written as a black slave character, and the blackface tradition was invented fairly recently. Though St. Nicholas folklore had been celebrated since the Middle Ages, there was no slave character involved until 1850, when this guy, a Dutch schoolteacher named Jan Schenkman, wrote a children's book called St. Nicholas and His Servant. The story describes how St. Nicholas visits a Dutch town, rewarding the good kids and punishing the bad kids. But just looking at the original illustrations for the book, you can tell that Black Pete isn't just a white Dutchman covered in soot. He's portrayed as a Moor from Spain, carrying St. Nicholas's heavy loads, wrapping up all the presents, and punishing naughty kids by hitting them with a switch or kidnapping them in a knapsack to take them back to Spain. He's not exactly a pleasant character in this original version of the story.
What I remember vividly is the sentiment of being scared. What if suddenly a Zwarte Piet comes out of the chimney when I'm there alone? Terrifying. And the terror of young children who don't feel safe is quite a powerful emotion that really stays with you. If you habituate children to this response to these strange characters with black faces, that's their model of black people.
When Schenkman wrote his children's book, slavery was still alive and well in the Dutch colonies. It wasn't abolished for another 13 years in 1863, and even then, slaves had to work for another 10 years as reparations to the slaveholders. The government treated abolition as a financial inconvenience. Beyond Dutch history, blackface originated for the purpose of mocking and dehumanizing black people. In minstrel shows in the mid to late 1800s, white actors would use black grease paint on their faces to depict black people on stage. You could watch minstrel shows like this as recently as 1978 on BBC. Taking place in societies that systematically mistreated black people, these portrayals served as a tool of oppression. Though Black Pete is the most beloved blackface character in European culture, he's not the only one. If you look at Belgian comic strips like Tintin, French ones like Asterix and Obelix, or Dutch ones like George and Jimmy, you can see versions of blackface caricatures everywhere. Black Pete, no matter how innocent the Dutch might think him to be, normalizes these portrayals.
Of course it is political. You don't invent a tradition like this in innocence.
It's really common to hear stories about black people being called Zwarte Piet by children. It also serves as a basis for racialized bullying in schools.
Black children are hurt, and parents are keeping their children home from school rather than send them to grow up with this stereotype that makes them feel that they're inferior to the white kid.
And it's common to hear people saying that black people in the Netherlands are okay with it, that their black neighbor or black friend actually likes it. Here's Prime Minister Rutte again making that argument.
I can only say that my friends in the Dutch Antilles, they are very happy when they have Sinterklaas because they don't have to paint their faces. And when I'm playing for Black Piet, I'm for days trying to get off the stuff on my face.
That was the Prime Minister saying that a blackface tradition is really more annoying for him because when he puts on blackface, it's hard to get the paint off.
And these people were angry about Black Piet, who is Santa's traditional sidekick there. 60 people were arrested for demonstrating away from locations that were set aside for protest, 30 more for disturbing public order.
Public opposition to Black Piet has been building since the 1970s. When Suriname won its independence in 1975, almost a third of the population moved to the Netherlands in order to keep their Dutch citizenship. A lot of those people were of African ancestry, and demographic changes brought a change in the way people talked about Black Piet.
Maar Gerda, het is toch hartstikke leuk om Zwarte Piet te zijn? Dan mag je met een zak lopen en pepernoten strooien.
Oh nee, het is helemaal niet leuk. Ik heet Gerda, ook als het Sinterklaasfeest is. Kijk, we begrijpen best wel dat Sinterklaas al zo lang komt en dat het best wel een vrolijk feest is. Maar voor heel veel zwarte mensen, grote mensen en kinderen is het helemaal geen feest. Nee, we kunnen bijna niet vrolijk zijn.
Still, that didn't stop the show from Piet in every yearly St. Nicholas episode after that.
Dat is Sinterklaas er niet!
Protest grew, steadily, getting international attention in 2011 when two protesters from an awareness campaign called Zwarte Piet is Racism were violently arrested in the city of Dordrecht. The Dutch National Ombudsman later ruled that the arrest was unlawful, disproportionately violent, and in violation of their human rights.
If you have eyes and you have a little heart, you will know that this is wrong.
That's Jerry Afriye. He was one of the two protesters arrested.
What we are fighting is institutional racism, approved by the government, approved by the police, approved by professionals, approved by schools. Everywhere, this is so much embedded in the whole society that it makes it very difficult to bring changes to it. And everyone is using their power to suppress us. And it's very difficult.
Afriye lost his job as a security guard after being arrested at a protest a few years ago, but he's kept showing up to demonstrate. Just a week after we spoke, he was violently assaulted by police again at a protest in the city of Rotterdam. In July 2014, Amsterdam's regional court ruled that Black Piet was, quote, a negative stereotype of black people, stating that the mayor had 6 weeks to remove Black Piet from city celebrations. But just a few months later, in November, the Netherlands' highest administrative court overturned that ruling, just in time for the holiday.
Dit hoort tot onze cultuur. Dat zijn onze waarden, normen, dat zijn onze tradities die we hebben. En die willen we gewoon behouden. En die laten we niet afnemen door een klein groepje extremisten die Zwarte Piet misbruiken om hun eigen frustratie te uiten.
But in August 2015, a UN committee in Geneva called the Dutch government to get rid of the aspects of Black Piet that promote black stereotypes. Since then, parade organizers have made some efforts to gradually minimize Black Piet's racist characteristics.
My job, being the spokesperson of Santa Claus, is to make the party of Santa Claus for everybody. Not only the white people in the villages, but for everybody in the cities, in the bigger cities.
One of the ways they've done that is by introducing a version of Black Piet that is clearly just a person covered in soot, without the earrings or the lipstick or an afro. They call it the Chimney Piet. RTL, one of the biggest TV networks in the region, stated in October that they wouldn't air anything except for Chimney Piet for the 2016 holidays.
And bear in mind the objectives. The objective is to have a smile on the face of the children, to be happy. So if you want to change things, take the time, don't do it overnight. So if you want to change this an attitude like that, it's not gonna go easy.
And in an unexpected announcement, the team organizing the parade in Amsterdam said Chimney Petes would replace all Black Petes in 2016. But changing a tradition like this is slow and difficult. Every move away from Black Pete has been met with resistance. A Jamaican researcher on the UN panel was met with a flurry of racist emails after their statement was released. A group in the northern Netherlands that was planning on dressing as multicolored rainbow Petes had to cancel their plans after getting death threats. And a Dutch contestant at the 2013 Eurovision music competition received racist messages and death threats after she spoke out against the custom.
And how could you possibly make this such a big deal? Because they have been trained this way in childhood.
People defend the tradition because it was important to their childhood, and they want to pass it on to their children. But understanding the impact this has on children could also be the key to changing public opinion. Just this year, the National Children's Ombudsman released a report arguing that the tradition violates children's rights regarding equal treatment and protection from discrimination.
It has tormented a lot of Black people, even children, who start to hate their own skin color, who come home to the parents crying and saying stuff like, I don't want to be Black, it's dirty, people are calling me Zwarte Piet, that I'm dirty, my skin color, it's very confusing and dramatic.